What is up, everybody? It's your boy Drees Drake up in the building, and today I'm joined by Mr. David Wise. Dave, tell the folks what we're talking about today.
Guys, we got to talk about what to make of this Jarvis Brownlee situation. What does the DB room look like if Jarvis Brownlee isn't around or isn't available to play this coming year? And then we got to talk about some exciting stuff going on with NIL and the Warpath.
I know Warpath, like kind of like the way that's done with that. And like, obviously, Warpath is the collective, well, not really collective, but it's the initiatives, with Mackenzie Milne and Dreamfield Co. With not affiliated with Forte Athletics, but it's definitely there to help the athletes out. But folks, thank you all so much for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every single day, Monday through Friday. And without further ado, let's go on with the show.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Seminoles. As at the top of the hour, it's your boy Drake. Today I'm joined with Mr. David Wise on this lovely Friday, Thursday's recording. Dave, how's the week going for you, my guy?
It's going good, man. I got some good weather up here in New York this week. It is weirdly warm. I don't know if global warming has hit this year so far, but man, it's feeling good out here. And if it has, love it.
Man, it was cold down here for a few days. I had to walk into my new office. I'm like, oh man, I'm wearing a dress shirt and this is way too thin for this weather. But folks, I prefer that than being in a suit and tie out in that humid heat, which I'll be doing in a few months. But we're not here to talk about the weather. I feel like we always do that whenever it's a music. We talk about the weather. But today we're actually going to discuss, at the top of the hour, we need to discuss the situation that's enveloping right now with one Jarvis Brownlee Jr., the starting DB for the past 2 years at FSU. And Dave, what exactly do you make of what's going on right now?
Well, look, what I'm not going to do here is speculate about what might have exactly happened in terms of the NIL deal situation. We've heard rumors. You can hear those rumors, I think, on other podcasts. I don't want to speculate as to it because I don't have any first-hand information. But what we do know for sure is that Jarvis Brownlee has taken to social media to attempt to publicly ridicule or humiliate the staff and the school, posting specifically something, I was on Twitter or Instagram, about a UF practice and saying, what did he say? We can't even have this energy?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, look, man, I'm not okay with any of our players doing that. That's a one strike and you're out to me thing, unless you're Deion Sanders. But Jarvis Brownlee, man, you're not good enough to be basically a lockout, holding out for spring, and then taking to social media and calling out the school or the staff, implying that we're not as good as UF or we don't have the same energy as UF. Like, if that's what you want to do, go play for UF. You are not good enough to get away with doing that publicly, right?
It's one of those things where, like, me, you, and Max kind of talk about this a lot, and also me working compliance. I will say that I defer a lot more to the player side of things when it comes to stuff like this, and also I kind of try to remember that, like, one, they're kids, right? And I'm not gonna let some kids actually affect my feelings. That being said, though, also, like, he's a kid transitioning to a young adult, and there's certain things that you don't do, you don't do when you're recruiting. Like, we would never do that to our boss, right? And I know we're in our 30s right now. That's one thing too. And to me, it's something like, one of the things that I try to do when I worked in compliance was that I know you're kids, but you're young adults, you're transitioning into the real world. There are going to be certain things that, every action that you make, every action you do has a consequence, either good or bad, right? We're supposed to prep you for situations like this and to handle them in the right manner. And to me personally, I don't think he's handled this in the right way. I don't know whether he's getting bad advice. I don't know what's going on with him at all. Like we said before, we don't speculate on here. We don't do the rumor mill. If you want to do that, go to a different podcast. Maybe you can go on Twitter, like you'll feed some of that stuff, go on the message boards, but we don't do that here. And that it's sad. It sucks and it's sad. But if you can't go, and when you have an issue with someone, me personally, I like to go, to the person's face. Whenever me, you, or Max have something with the show, we don't go out. Yeah. We don't go out at it on here, in front of everybody else. We say, hey, listen, we have a problem, and we discuss it. Correct. So to me, it's just something that I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on, but to me, it's just something that typically I don't agree with you when it comes to sort of thing, but this is something that you can't let this go. You really can't. Yeah. It's to the point of no return. And like, unless Mike might be a bigger man than me, I would say with Brown, like, hey, we'll get you the help you need for whatever's going on. But unfortunately, you at the very least, you won't play for us here.
Yeah, I think this is a place where you have to make an example of it. If you're Mike Norvell, I don't think you're being the bigger person by letting it go. You have to do something about this. It's embarrassing. It's disappointing. But mostly it's attacking, the guys that go out there next to him and pour their blood, sweat, and tears into this game.
Even with that too, like, sorry to cut you off, even with that too, you see him sharing pictures of like his guys, like, these are my boys here, but then still doing it with the staff. And it's kind of like, I get where I get you're frustrated, with either the administration or coaching staff or whatever. But when you attack them in a certain way, they also are in the line of fire when you take this kind of actions, especially with social media.
And look, you and I in particular, I think at this point are not the hugest fans of this staff. We are highly skeptical of them. I'm still open, this year to giving them a chance and hoping, they prove themselves and prove me wrong, my skepticism wrong. But even that said, I think that this is the time when they need to, this is when Mike Norvell needs to assert himself and his authority and stamp this out and say, this one player does not make or break this team, and you're not going to get away with that here. This is my team. This is 84 other, guys' team that are here to play for Florida State and not trash talking us, and our team publicly. That's not okay. You got to make an example of it. I don't need to see Jarvis Brownlee play here again. If he does, there's going to need to be a very public apology, among other things, and I think a suspension, a team.
So I think he's already suspended.
Issued. Okay. Well, I mean, like, for several games, like, you signaled to us loud and clear, you don't really care to play here, so don't.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that, like, I personally hope that I know Jimbo had the social media ban a few years ago. I personally hope that doesn't come about, primarily because with NILs going on right now, kids need social media to kind of capitalize off of that. When people actually discuss most of these deals, it's over social media channels. When they get paid through, their NIL collective or their NIL agent, it's also done through their social media interactions. So I hope that, this doesn't lead to that. Me and you are probably been at the forefront of not being super in love with the staff, primarily with Coach Norvell. I didn't like his handling of the Marvin Wilson situation, but to me, it's something that hopefully doesn't linger over the program and something that can rectify, very, very soon. And hopefully, all parties involved can, reach an amicable end. But that might be me being naive and hoping that I live in Rainbow Land, kind of like the book from the campaign. But hey, like, hopefully that's, that's the thing that we strive for.
Yeah, I just want to say another thing. I loved Jarvis Brownlee as a player. Still do. I've been very high on him. He gives up some plays in coverage, but he hits harder than anyone out there, and he definitely is a max effort type player. Love him as a player. That's not the issue here. The way he handled it wasn't just immature, it was insulting, and that's a 0 strikes rule here for me.
Like we said, we don't know exactly what's going on for right now, but optically speaking, that, like, this looks bad for both parties in general. Like, I've had different outlets ask me what's going on at Kansas on ACC. Was like, hey, what's going on with the Brownlee kid? Like, that's an issue when, like, it's becoming a national question regarding Norvell, especially going into a very prime year 3. It's not a good look. But folks, what is a good look, and that is this body after eating Built Bars for 2 months. That's right, folks. I have dropped 15 pounds. I know it doesn't look it, but I feel great. I feel mobile. The Cherry Barcia Casanova is in full effect. Dave is the president over there of the cookie dough brownie connoisseurs over there. And then you got Max with who's the general of the peanut butter brownie brigade. But folks, if you don't like those 3 flavors, there are 16 other delicious flavors to choose from, especially the white chocolate cheesecake, which your boy has a deep obsession with Cheesecake Factory, because I love to go there. And folks, with 130 calories, little carbs, little sugar, head over to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15%. That's a 15% bonus off of your order. Once again, that's a 15% bonus off of your cart at built.com by using promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15. Let's get healthy together, folks. Head to built.com today. All right, now, Dave, so let's go into this next segment, assuming that Jarvis Brownlee will not be part of the program, moving forward, or maybe he might not even start the season with us. What do you see, I guess, as the state of the DB room moving forward with that? Do you see kind of a shuffling with the starters? Do you see someone stepping up, or do you simply see not much actually happening because our DB room is, while they're very young, they're very deep?
Well, look, we did the DB preview, and I think we both felt good about the room as a whole in terms of the potential, at least. Not really the production or proven performance, but the potential. There probably is another unfortunate situation this year where we could be proven to be falling victim to name syndrome.
Of course,
there's always a lot of good names in the DB room at FSU. We recruit well at that position, regardless of where the program is at. I think in the preview felt pretty good about 2 of the 3 cornerback spots outside of Brownlee. I think we know that Omarion Cooper is going to be a starting corner on the other side. And I think the nickel corner is still going to be Kevin Knowles. Those 2 performed well at those spots last year, especially as the year went on. I think those are solidified. The question is, what the hell happens to Brownlee's spot? And there are bad answers to that question. If I were to say the name, just it will give you a visceral reaction for a lot of people. Jarrian Jones, you just see his number running behind somebody trying to catch them 40 yards down the field after they've already caught the ball, right? He was a starting corner. He has starting experience. He has decent potential in him, but to have him as your number 1 corner to face off against the other team's prime receiver, holy shit. This defense is going to take a step back in coverage. So I don't think that can be the answer. But this is a good opportunity for a couple of players that we've talked about having a lot of hope for. Travis J, I've talked a lot about. Demore Tate, you've talked a lot about. I think this is a chance for one of them to step up, obviously. There's a lot of reason why, especially regarding Travis J, people would be skeptical. But the 2 of them have unlimited potential. They had him as recruits. Travis J's flashed it at times here at FSU. You've brought up that Demore Tate has had injury issues, but still he's looked good out there when he has been out there. Those are 2 players who could easily fill that void if one of them were to step it up and fulfill their potential.
Do you remember what I said about one of the 2 freshmen coming in the DB room about a month ago? What did I say?
Yeah, you said Azaria.
I said Zaire Thomas is going to be the better DB of Sam McCall himself, right? And so far, apparently in spring practice, Zaire Thomas has been one of the best DBs actually out there. And I said that Zaire Thomas, I wouldn't be surprised if he's starting, by week 4. Maybe he might push for week 1. Maybe you might actually see him against the David Duquesnes of the world, primarily because, to me, this DB room is very, very deep. And, if we do lose Brownlee, Jarrian, I don't have a problem with Jarrian Jones playing defensive back.
Right, playing,
if he's a rotational piece, right? If he comes in there for a player to dispel someone out, because he has good ball skills. That's his problem is never the ball skills. The problem is him getting burned, right? And that's something we saw the pick against UNC when he got caught the over the shoulder fade route, which is a great interception on his part. He broke the rock that game. And then you have Sam McCall, who I know he came in as a safety from high school. They're trying to play him at corner, which I don't kind of understand. This kind of goes to my point where also that I don't agree with certain, I guess scheme fits when it comes to Jarvis Brownlee should have played safety. I think Sam McCall should stay at safety. And then with Travis J, me personally think he should go to offense. And then we also have Greedy Vance, where at Louisville, where to me, he's not going to start, but that's someone I think you'll definitely see as another rotational piece, because apparently he gets the blood pumping for the team in practice. And that's something that, you love to see actually going into game week.
Yeah, look, we just listed 5 good names. And that doesn't even mention somebody I feel like Hunter Washington is forgotten about. He was a top 20 cornerback, a 4-star composite coming out of high school not long ago. So that's enough. That's the point, is we have guys we forget about that are 4-stars, that are blue chip recruits in the DB room. Our only current composite 5-star is still in the DB room. The talent is there. The potential is there. That seems like it's always the problem with the DB room, is that the potential is always there. The production lags behind. But Brownlee being out is not the end of the world, I don't think, for this room. In large part because if somebody can step up and can excel in coverage, regardless of whether they're the biggest hitter in the world like Brownlee and forcing fumbles and whatnot, you could actually, in theory, improve in your coverage at the cornerback position by one of those guys stepping up, who I think are probably several of them are more athletic or more quicker, I guess you'd say, than Brownlee, so that they can stick with the receiver and coverage better.
And I think the difference is also now too that if this happened maybe 2 years ago, it would be much more of a dire issue because there isn't depth behind them, right? And that's something where we saw with, a Tamori and Terry and a Marvin Wilson, who, like, they were the only pieces we had at those spots. There was a huge, significant drop off. And now this time you're like, okay, like, we don't have the elite of the elite DBs because most of them, like I said earlier, are super duper young. But overall, the state of the DB room is in a lot better shape. And I know we say it's with name syndrome, but if we're being honest here, sports in general is always name syndrome. It just becomes, it depends on like how deep you get, you go into the weeds on it. So to me, the defensive back room, we didn't even talk about safeties. Like Jamie Robinson is still there to help us out as well. Right. Renardo Green, Sidney Williams, and Renardo Green, apparently Weapon X. They call him Wolverine, so I'll go one step further, call him Weapon X, the adamantium that he has. So to me, Akeem Dent too. Like, see, like there's so many, there's a lot of names. I know we're doing the names thing right now, like probably in full effect, but overall, like the DB room is not only in much better shape for depth purposes, but also the versatility among the kids that are in that room actually has me positive actually going into 2022.
Yeah, that's a good point. Some of the safeties I think could come down to the corner spot if needed. And I don't think it would be necessarily like an emergency situation like Travis Jay coming in to play quarterback. Like some of those safeties are capable of playing cornerback if needed. And I think this room overall will be fine. It could end up being a weird year where like Azaria Thomas, a true freshman, comes in and is a necessary starter. And
we had two last year.
I know, and I think this room will be fine. I think it's just one of those positions we've recruited well at. We're probably going to stick our feet, our mouth, or somebody's just going to come out of the blue and be a starting cornerback that we didn't even mention because there's just so many of them. It's tough to say, but I feel good about it.
No, Dave, I mean, you're right about that. I'm actually super excited about these kids. And also, I'm excited about playing betonline.net with March Madness. Folks, March Madness is here. Chaos has ensued. Iowa has up my bracket, but I'm still fine with the bracket because I get to go to betonline.net each and every single day to place all my bets, either on March Madness or I got a UFC pay-per-view coming up on my birthday, so your boy's going to put some money on that. MLB is just around the corner. Thank God the lockout's over. And NHL, playoffs about to start. Florida Panthers hopefully can finally get out the first round for the first time since 1999. But folks, head over to betonline.net today and use promo code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKEDON to get a 100% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Once again, use promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, BetOnline, where the game starts.
Drake,
what's up?
Before we get on to segment number 3, we gotta talk about something here.
What happened?
How about that FSU softball team? Like,
dude, they're so good.
What a cool win coming back like that against number 4 Alabama, the number 2 team in the country right now. They very well could make it again to the championship game and play against Oklahoma. Such a good revenge spot. This team is awesome.
I mean, the team is definitely the cream of the crop. And when we saw it last year against Oklahoma, and like the only reason we lost the Oklahoma team was primarily like that Oklahoma team is like next generational when it comes to talent. Like I think Max put it perfectly last week. They basically have Barry Bonds, a softball version of her. Like literally, like I think her OPS is above 1100, which is something that Dave, for those of you baseball stat nerds out there, Dave and I are like, wow, that's absolutely insane. But no, Catherine Sandercock is 12-0 right now. Sydney Sherrill, even though she didn't get the out-of-home plate, made a spectacular acrobatic catch, and that's something that, quite frankly, I think the fellas are playing well too, but I think they should look at the girls, right? It's like, hey, like that's how you actually play winning, consistent baseball/softball each and every single day. So, Dave, you did, kind of get a little tease before that. I kind of want to talk a little bit more about the actually FSU's Warpath, which is basically the initiative headed by Mackenzie Milton and Dreamfield Co., basically the NIL collective, if you will. So I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that and actually what you know about it so far.
Yeah, so my understanding is that its intent and design is to create more accessibility NIL-wise between the athletes and the fans, like to make to make them more accessible to the fans in terms of like, is it chats? It's I believe merchandise. Like, it's going to make it easier for fans to figure out how they can interact with these student athletes. And for those so inclined, it's not just limited to football. Apparently it's supposed to be across other sports at FSU too, which I think is good, because it would kind of suck if the only benefit of NIL was that like football players were the only people that benefit from it. But this is a time when at FSU, it's funny we just talked about this, because if you're sick of losing at FSU, you just wish you could feel what winning feels like again. There's other sports where you can do that. Like you said, Sandra Cock is so good for our softball team. Like, it would be cool to talk to her about how good she is at softball, right?
And the women's soccer team too. Like, you can actually, like, because if you look actually overall, the payouts for NIL, primarily the higher breadwinners is actually women's sports. When it comes to like, I think the Cavinder twins actually over in California, I think they transferred from Fresno State. Like, they're the #1 NIL leader right now, actually, for student athletes as a whole. And like, yeah, like, I mean, what Warpath is doing is basically connecting the fan with the player, which is something that, of course, like back in the day, like, you know, you can go to autograph sessions, right? But this way, actually, you can guarantee that the athlete actually gets compensated for, you know, doing an appearance or even, you know, having a conversation. I think also that they're doing like a top golf at Doak too. Like, I think with Warpath, it's not like it's not similar to Rising Spear. I think Rising Spear is a little more with the bigger brand names. I think Warpath is more is geared towards
fan oriented,
fan interactions, which is something that, like, if that's all that, you know, they're actually going out for, I mean, that's going to be like a fun time for both parties involved if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, you see on Twitter a lot of people wondering, how the hell do I like actually get interaction? Like fans saying, how do I get a signed jersey? Or, you know, I'd love to talk to this player. Like, I think that's going to be possible now, which I think is going to be good for the average fan, because that'll keep them more engaged. And I think the more engaged fans are, even at a time when in football we've been a sucking, the better that's going to be for the program. I think that's more likely to get people continuing to be boosters, convert people to boosters. That's always a good thing. The program needs the money. The athletes being treated well by the fans in terms of NIL is going to keep us competitive in the national scene, especially when the state of Florida recently declined to pass any new legislation this year that's going to allow it to remain competitive with out-of-state schools. So yes, this is very, very important to the viability of, I think, recruiting and just Florida State's sports success in general.
I think so too, because I mean, if we're going to be completely honest here, NIL has been around, you know, college football, you know, for the end of time, for sports all the time.
Under the table.
The only difference is that now it's out in the open. That's kind of why people, I think, are more upset about it. Not only that it's also more out in the open, but also you have large businesses actually coming in. Kind of like, I think it was Kayvon Thibodeau had the deal with Delta, and then you also had DG Uwangalele had it with Boeing too. So to me, like, I think it's great overall. The Warpath is something that actually I'm very, very excited for to see how it goes moving forward, especially with you know all of our teams. Because like you said, Dave, you and I like it when all of our teams are good, but also that we like to enjoy we like to support every single sport, because even teams like Alabama, which I get they have more money than us, they support every single one of their teams, and look how they turn out.
Yeah, right. And just stepping back for a second, and we are fans first here. It's cool as a fan. Like, if I want to get a signed jersey from somebody, I can just arrange that basically. If I want to have a chat with somebody after, you know, they have a cool play or a big game or something, I can go arrange that. That's a cool thing to just be able to do. And prior to now, that's been difficult, if not impossible, for most fans to figure out or be able to do, if at all.
No, agreed. And now you can do it without, you know, worrying about, oh my God, am I going to get this kid, you know, in trouble? Or am I going to get this kid? Or, oh no, if I, you know, like pay this kid, you know, like, I guess what, do a cameo? Am I going to be worried they can't start for us, you know, next week or something like that? No, it's really cool that finally, like what EA, power to the players. That's kind of how this kind of feels overall. Dave, before we head out, do you have any last words for the folks at home?
Yeah. Keep watching our softball team, man. Potential national champions again. If you want to look at our next national champion at Florida State, you're worried it might not be football and basketball didn't make the tournament. Baseball might have the best pitching staff in the country.
They do.
This softball team might be the best overall team in the country.
This softball team is gross. Our baseball pitching staff is hands down the best staff actually in the country. Alex Terrell, thank you so much for transferring from Miami, because you just hit bombs after bombs after bombs. And folks, thank you guys so much for love and support and joining us today. Please, as always, if you can, don't forget 5-star reviews in our podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever your podcast from. Ray, Dave, please like the video at the bottom, hit the subscribe banner at the tippy top to make sure you get all our videos, and also ding the little bell so you know exactly when new content drops. For Dave, this is Drake. We'll see y'all next time on Locked On Seminoles.
Don't know.
Were you waiting for me to say take care?
Yes, I was. Confused me.